So hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Michigan Military Technical and Historical Society Museum Vehicle Restoration video. This is our Jeep fuel system part 2. So we've got the Jeep put back together. I had it running, took it up and down the street here briefly this afternoon. Everything seems to be working. Well, most everything seems to be working, but you kind of see what we did here. Now we've got reproduction carburetor, which would be correct for this vehicle, in place of the Solex that was on here with the correct fuel line. Got rid of the fuel pressure regulator. And I guess that's one thing I learned something new that I was not aware of. I did not know that the Solex carburetors had to run on a lower pressure. I'm used to, every carburetor vehicle I've ever owned tends to operate somewhere in that 5 to 7 psi range. Doing some reading on this, I came to the conclusion or realization that the Solex carburetor that was on here, they operate in somewhere around 2 to 3 psi. So you have to turn the pressure down off the mechanical fuel pump. This mechanical fuel pump is putting out, when I tested it, it was putting out about between 5 and 6 psi at this one on the gauge I had, and so it seemed right. So that's why this thing had this fuel pressure regulator bolted down here. You can kind of see the two holes where it was attached. So that I learned something new. I did not realize that Solex carburetors were operated on such a low pressure, but apparently they do. So we got the fuel filter over here all rebuilt. Got the new gas tank in. We flushed out all the lines. Took the fuel pump apart, cleaned it. Everything looks good. It tested good, pulled good vacuum, put out good pressure. So everything seems to be working correctly. We got the idle set. I still got to do a little playing around with the mixer screws, but everything seems pretty decent. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the fuel filter over here and a problem that we had, and something that I've had this problem on a couple of military vehicles I've owned that have this style fuel filter on them. So we got everything done. We got everything working. We had this thing running, and it just died. And we couldn't. And see down here, like I said, we have the glass fuel filter bowl on this one. There was no fuel in the bowl, or it was really, really low in this bowl. You can see right now with it not running, it's about 3/4 of the way up the bowl. When it's running, it comes almost up to the top of the screen here. But so we had it running. I was trying to tune the carb, and it just died, and the fuel filter bowl was empty. I thought the fuel pump had gone bad, but I went ahead and put the gauge on it, and it was pulling, and it was good, developing pressure, and I was getting a good vacuum reading off the back side of it. So couldn't quite figure out. We thought maybe a piece of junk got stuck in one of the lines, which I don't see how, because I purged all the lines with air, and it just was not pulling fuel. And that leads us back over to this guy. And like I said, I've had this problem on a couple other MVs that I own. And this bowl is held on, but this bolt up here. There's a gasket up in here, and then there's another gasket underneath the bolt head. If that gasket is not seated correctly, air will find its way in here, and the fuel pump will start sucking air, and your vehicle will not run. And that is exactly what happened here. When I put the fuel filter element that I got came with a fiber washer to put underneath the bolt head, and I went ahead and used it, even though I kind of had this suspicion about it. But I put it in there because that's what it came with. And what happened is when I tightened this down, that fiber washer split. And I believe that was what was happening, is I was introducing air up here at the bolt head. Took this all back apart, cleaned it again, made sure that since this is a paper gasket here, I did the old, the trick that was taught to me by an old school mechanic years and years and years ago when you have a paper gasket is you go ahead and you put some clean motor oil on it and then put it in there. That swells the paper up a little bit. And so I put that in there, and then I replaced the fiber gasket that came with this with a copper washer out of my copper washer assortment. Torque this all back down again. I went over here with a vacuum pump, and I hooked the vacuum pump. I took this line off, hooked the vacuum pump directly onto here, and I pulled fuel almost instantly. So doing that, I also primed the system, made sure that we had fuel all the way through, and this thing started right up on the first crank, and it's been running quite well ever since. So if you have a military vehicle or any old, vehicle that runs a sediment bowl style filter like this, and you're having a drivability issue, one of the things I would go directly to is the gasket here and the bolt head. If it's got a fiber gasket under the bolt head, get rid of that. Put a copper washer in there, and it should solve your problem. So, again, we have this thing running. I went through the underside of it. I found a whole bunch of loose bolts, loose fasteners on the drive shaft, which was kind of terrifying. So those have all been torqued down. Everything's been fixed. Like I said, I took it for a brief spin around the property here. It seems to be working the way it should. But like I said, it's running good. But right now it's not charging. So I need to dig into that. I need to pull the manual out and see what's going on. I have a feeling this voltage regulator has an issue. So we'll check the generator. We'll check the voltage regulator and make sure everything's right and see why it's not charging. But other than the fact that it's not charging, everything else seems to be working on it. The lights are working, the horns are working. One of the blackout lights in the back, they painted over it, so I can't tell if it's working or not. But all the other blackout lights work. So everything seems to be functional with the exception of our charging system. So that'll be project for this weekend. So just wanted to give you all an update on what's going on with this. It's looking good. It's running good, and it'll be running even better when the battery's not going dead. So we'll step back, take a look at her, and so it's just a short video tonight. Again, if you're in the Detroit metro area, come by the museum, check us out. We're at 9.5 Mile in Gratiot, not far from 696 or I-94. mimths.org is our website, and like and subscribe. So we'll catch you all at the next video. Thanks.